All right, chem students, today we're going to talk about percent yield of a chemical reaction. Now, when we calculate the amount of a product in a stoichiometry problem, the calculated answer we get is called the theoretical yield. This is because this is the amount we would get theoretically if the experiment went perfectly and we didn't have any mistakes or any error, or basically a scenario that's not going to happen. Now, the amount of product we get when we actually do the reaction in lab is called the experimental yield. So we can compare our experimental yield with the theoretical yield to see how well we actually did. To do this, we use the formula below to get a percent yield, or the percentage of the theoretical yield that we obtained in lab. The closer we get to 100%, the better we did. Now, percent yield equals the experimental yield. That means what we actually did in lab, and it's divided by the theoretical yield, or what the perfect scenario would have been. And we multiply that times 100. So our first example for this is magnesium reacting with hydrochloric acid to give us magnesium chloride and hydrogen. Now, our student started with 0.25 grams of magnesium, and she obtained 0.90 grams of magnesium chloride. What is her percent yield of magnesium chloride? First, we have to calculate the theoretical yield of magnesium chloride with stoichiometry, meaning how much could she have gotten had everything gone perfectly. So we start with 0.25 grams of magnesium. We convert that to moles of magnesium. That's step one. Step two, we do our mole to mole ratio, where we convert moles of magnesium to moles of magnesium chloride. And then we convert moles of magnesium chloride to the mass for magnesium chloride. Multiply across the top, divide by the bottom. The best she could have done would have been 0.98 grams of magnesium chloride. Now, we're actually going to calculate the percent yield of magnesium chloride. Percent yield equals the experimental, which is 0.90 grams, that's what she actually got in lab, over the theoretical. The most she possibly could have gotten was 0.98. And then we're going to multiply that times 100. So when we do the math here, she got a percent yield of 92%. Now, this is very good. Very, very good. Now, another student obtained 0.74 grams of magnesium chloride, and he started with the same 0.25 grams of magnesium. What would his percent yield be? Let's find out. So percent yield is experimental, this is what he got in his lab, divided by the theoretical. So the most he possibly could have gotten was 0.98 grams. We multiply that times 100, and his percent yield was 76%. Now, this one's not as good. So that's it for percent yield of a chemical reaction. Do the corresponding pages in your practice packet.